Hey,
Hello, everyone. Alan had a last minute meeting, so he asked me to step in, unless you want to take over, Matt. But
Oh, go ahead.
I'm happy to host. Yeah, I didn't see any topics other than the developer summit, although I have a couple I could add. Wanted to see what others had. Okay, I think we have a critical mass. Alexander, is he rejoining? Popped at the bottom. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Um, Michael or Matt, I don't know if you wanted to talk at all about the upcoming CFS Developer Summit.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing folks there. Tickets are available. Please get your tickets now. The talks are announced. We have 5 great talks from members of the community. Um, it's in Portland, Oregon. For folks who haven't heard yet, Michael is organizing it this year, so thanks a lot. And we have a slightly different format. There's going to be 2 additional days. So there's a 2-day user summit over the weekend, and then Monday, Tuesday is the developer summit. So folks can come for any portion of that they are interested in. Yeah, I'd love to see you there.
likewise. Any questions from people? We'll reach out on Slack if needed. Matt and I are around, and as is Karen. We hope to see you there. Hoping my audio is working. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Matt, one quick question on, is the hackathon going to be the same format as in previous years where second day and on-site?
Yeah, so it's going to be at the same venue. All 4 days are at the same venue. The hackathon will be on that Tuesday. We will have some prizes for the favorite projects. And yeah, hackathon is the opportunity to work with folks that maybe you don't normally work with, or see folks in person and work with them if you have worked with them before. It's a great chance for brainstorming, and there'll be lots of opportunities for non-coding hackathon projects as well, for folks who are not necessarily kernel C developers, although that's probably most of this crowd. Yeah, look forward to it.
Okay. Do you know if there's in the past we had a spread, I think there was a Google Sheet, but for ideas, people can pop their ideas into.
Yeah, we should do that again. I haven't set that up yet, but I'll do that and add a link to the website.
Okay, good. Yeah. Always I like to see what people are proposing for their hacks.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody add, so I could go ahead and I can't type and talk at the same time. So maybe Cynthia or, or somebody could annotate my two topics. They're kind of similar. We were working with a customer and sustained quite quite a bit of damage to the meta dnode tree where all the dnodes are stored. And a couple of things where we were thinking about, proactively making it better, maybe in the future. In this one particular case, and I've made some recent changes for the VDEV faulting um, plan. We ended up with 4 faulted VDEVs on a RAID Z3, but one of them was in the replacing VDEV. So it wasn't critical, but they were replacing a marginal disk. So I changed it so when you're calculating whether or not you can fault a disk, if you have a marginal disk in the mix, that should be excluded, like a replacing VDEV. But one thing that came up was like, why are we running with, like on a RAID Z3, we tolerate 3 faults, which means you have no redundancy. You're not writing any redundancy. One thing that came up, could we make either a property or some provision, a tunable, that would let you specify your amount of risk? Like, really, I only want to fault 1 disk out of my RAID Z3 before it suspends so that I can take, administrative action. So I don't know if people have thoughts on that, like some type of way to say, I don't want to be running with no redundancy, basically. Suspend my pull when you get, 1 disk away from my lack of redundancy.
Suspend or read-only mode?
I don't know that people have talked about that. Rob, you might have a thought on that, but I don't think we have today a read-only mode that we can drop into. It's only full suspension.
Yeah, we don't have one today. I have prototypes for general broadly things at a distance saying, "Paul, you are read only now," and all the no-com effects that have to come from that. But yeah, we don't have it now. We could do it, but I don't. For now, it would just be suspend.
Thank you.
Don, I think the challenge would be like if you have something where you kind of specify the redundancy and you suspend the pool, what is the recovery mode? Like, what do you do? Like, how do I unsuspend it so that I can do something about it? If in the process of unsuspending it, I may fault another disk or something, right? Like, I think there's like challenges of like what your recovery is once you alert the user that their redundancy is hit some threshold.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that also, I mean, what the point of redundancy is that you continue to function in the situation. So admittedly, a customer says, all right, I've lost all my redundancy, so I'm running in a more dangerous situation, but most of that should spur them to say, all right, I need to swap in some disks here to get my redundancy back again, right? To say to fault the pool at that point when you could be running seems like it's defeating the purpose of having the redundancy in the first place.
Well, it was like, like I don't want to run with no redundancy type of request. And so you're opting into it. It's not the default behavior, but you would say, I don't want to have no redundancy on my array right now. So I'd rather fault or suspend.
Yeah, I think it feels to me like it's part of a larger package. Like if you were to suspend the pool and then you had external agents or your application above, it could then notice and go, oh, okay, I'm going to shed load, I'm going to move it over there, and I'm just going to take the pressure off of this instance. And then once that's done, the operator can come in and resume it and then do their thing. A similar idea would be with a kind of a sort of a read-only mode, not full read-only, not like import read-only, but more read-only at sort of ZPL or zvol layer. So user applications can't make further changes, but the pool is still modifiable by the operator. So again, they can get in there. So there's variations in how we could respond, but it all starts at the bottom in what's the threshold that we
Yeah, I
get
think
off it?
that's probably where, and maybe that's where it's a much bigger discussion of like, maybe it's like there is no more IO allowed, but you can do administrative commands. And so you kind of like it's changing the model of like, zpool commands could still be, could still modify state, but there is no like you said, no IO that's coming in that at that point in time that is suspended. Instead of suspending the entire pool, you're suspending kind of the IO stream. Maybe that's kind of what the model that you're looking for, which opens up the question of like, okay, well now the suspending of a pool takes on a new flavor, and it's like I now can suspend the pool because I have no redundancy, or I've faulted enough disks, or I can kind of go into more of a read-only mode, which could also be interesting. I think there's some interesting topics for sure, like maybe useful for like a bigger discussion at at the summit.
Yeah, I can envision a breakout on this sort of topic of this one itself and sort of a larger one of mitigating critic catastrophic, I guess, metadata loss. So, okay,
Yeah.
that's good. And then the other topic was like possibly taking a snapshot of some of the critical metadata, so that when you have damage, you have something to go back and when you're trying to repair the disk or recover, because you can do normal snapshots, but if you don't want to opt into the cost of across all your file data, you just really want to preserve metadata. Because like right now we store like in the index for the metadata node tree, we store 2 copies of the index, but in our particular case, they were written at the same exact time. So whatever damage, they incurred the same damage, so that so a snapshot would have helped.
But I wonder what would that snapshot do? It would have to hold all the block pointers, same as normal snapshot. And each time you modify the data, it will try to modify all the object tree, all the metadata, and all the things you're actually trying to hold. So I'm not sure what's the point of having snapshots of metadata without snapshot of data. How would it work even? Because no block pointers that you've snapshotted will be valid after some time, pretty soon.
Yeah,
So-
I don't. Yeah, the mechanics of it, but the idea is being that you have an older version of the tree basically that you can go back to and find objects.
Yeah, it is one of the, it's a funny one. What part of what's happened in this case is some of the L1 blocks in the metadata node were damaged. We're not entirely sure the extent of that damage. So we've been doing a lot of work to try and recover objects. So like this is a 128 gigabyte metadata node. It's about 300 million objects. So every L1 you lose is potentially another 32K objects. And I think there's about 1,500 of them damaged. So there's a good chunk missing, and there's a bunch of reasons that they got into this situation, but now they're like, can we help get that back? So we've been doing a lot of manual work, basically picking it apart and ignoring checksums and trying to go and do things on disk and trying to reconstruct bits and pieces of RAID and trying to unchunk bits of compressed stuff and all sorts of stuff to try and find valid block pointers. And the thing we consistently notice is like, yes, there are other issues, but these indirect blocks are seem so precious, so critical to the functioning of everything, and we're like, yet there's like that one block pointer in that one part of the indirect gets written at that time, and if that write is damaged, the knock-on effects are just so extensive. And so this is not I don't really have a proposal here, but what Don and I have been sort of just trying to figure out is like, what is a small amount? So not a full snapshot, but what is a small amount of additional data, or extra copies of bits and pieces, just DVAs or just something that we could store elsewhere, maybe on a different, like on a different schedule, like a slightly different timing, like not in the same ride as the block pointer, something that we sort of, just so this kind of extra stuff around that could then help to correlate things for during a recovery operation. And it's very fuzzy because we're basically saying what extra things could we store to help us when storage didn't work. So like you can kind of draw that line all over the place. So it'd need to be things that are like, not very invasive or just maybe a slight structural difference. We thought for a while, could we double store all of the indirects, but not all of the, L0 blocks? Or could we run it? Could we just keep that like one TXG behind, or could we do it like all sorts of things? And
Is this a case where like ditto blocks didn't help?
Yeah, because we already
Yes.
stored 2 copies.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
both,
like so
both fail the checksum. Both fail the checksum.
so this
So
is
their written, so their original version was bad. In memory was a problem there. Is that what happened?
yeah. Can you say more about like the corruption that
No.
kind of led to
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, we have some theories. My theory is that the disk caches were lost across some type of event that power cycled the drives, and then ZFS came back and flushed them, but they
Yeah.
didn't have any data in them, so we lost wholesale writes. And at the time, it was doing a lot of deletes, so it was touching all those L1s.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we know that there's issues with response to failed flushes as well. We've talked about those previously, and we're trying to get on top of those. So
And like
it's
how
all
many
it
TXGs do you think you guys were lost as a result of this?
well, not
I'm
well,
assuming
not
it's several.
probably several. And also
Yeah, it went unnoticed. So yeah, and it's still
Okay.
live, and the poll was still live. It never suspended.
yeah.
So
So you can't roll back at that point. You
No,
went
no.
well past.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes. There's a number of there's also a number of like, I'll say, operational errors made here, which we're working with the customer to sort of improve some of the processes a bit. But yeah, so like, yeah, we're not in an ideal situation, but it was more just, I guess, I don't know, what are we even
Yeah.
saying, Non? Have you been in similar situations? Says, oh, I could have pulled this back to life brute force if I just had this one little nugget of information and it was only this long and we could have stored it there. What would we do? Like, I don't know.
yeah,
I think
because it's
this might be
metadata.
no, suck it up, just don't screw it up. And
It's
Yeah.
compressed, so it's like, even though we've confirmed that some of the columns that were written are good, but it's compressed, so it's like it's hard to piece together.
Yeah, and see,
But
like, so that's the example we're starting to think about. Like, well, should we have even the option of like, metadata indirects or critical object indirect blocks should not be compressed, because at least then we could piece bits back together. Like a block pointer is, you don't care if you just want one block pointer or one D node out of the table, you don't actually care about the rest of the block. If you had like a Sean Wright under the hood or whatever, you might still be able to get little pieces back. Now, obviously, those are things that should not happen, and we should fix those bugs, but they are things that have happened.
yeah, now that we're here, we're
So,
just
yeah.
kind of musing about like,
Yeah.
like my thought was like, we write the 2 ditto blocks, we write them in the same time, so they're in the same like blast radius. So if we could write, and somehow we spatially write them, but we don't like, temporarily write them. So I don't know. There's, because it doesn't do you any good if they're both damaged, right? So
Right, but your blast radius was pretty broad in this
Yes,
case if you lost
huge.
everything off of every drive.
This is like a nuclear blast.
Yeah.
yeah, like what happens if all your drives lie and they don't write for, a few seconds. That's like
yeah, that's shouldn't happen.
The only thing that comes to
Shouldn't,
mind
yeah.
is that use different kind of drives. So if we cannot trust all SAS drives, okay, put another metadata nearby, special VDEF, which is NVMe, completely different topology, different everything. And then there was the PR to write different copies to different, one to special, one to regular. And in that case, that could actually be a good thing, hopefully. So that the more different we write those two copies, the more reliable it will be. We should just figure out what to call special, because so far we have so many different notions what is special. We should finally somehow formalize it.
Everything's special to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, going back to something Alexander said, I think that just keeping the metadata snapshot isn't going to give you what you ultimately want. I mean, if maybe the better concept here is that like there's, you know, some form of like loop snapshots, or where you keep a ring of 1,000 snapshots and they're taken every TXG, but they get overwritten, you know, every 1,000 TXG. But I think ultimately you're going to find that like if you just keep the metadata around, you're going to end up going like, oh, well, this is great. Like I can see what was there, but I still can't figure out what, you know, how to piece it back together.
I have an idea. This customer should maybe do something like a backup, and then they can restore from that backup where they lose all their data like this in a catastrophic event.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, when, yeah, you get to the point of like, yeah, ZFS sort of does, you know, assumes like that's the message you actually get. It's like restore from backup, because there's not enough critical mass here to get your data back.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I agree. Yeah, there are probably some interesting things we could probably do here, like George has alluded to, but it does seem like you're jumping through a lot of hoops to recover from a situation which is pretty catastrophic. And it's like, all right, so yeah, maybe this customer should have had a different set of type of redundancy across different controllers, across, you know, failed over, you know, to a separate storage device or something. But, you know, it's like, all right, we can only do so much given the nature of the environment we're operating in.
Or maybe have a mechanism that's like, go and periodically read what you just wrote like 3 TXGs ago, and make sure that, you know, like it's still there, so that if these drives are going to like run forever and not, you know, and continue just dropping data, like you can abort where you have a chance to recover.
I agree. That's actually a really interesting point. I think that we should, like, you should constantly be doing reads, at least of your metadata trees, to make sure that you know, basically verifying your checksums all the time, because if you're in a situation where your drives could lose data that way, then you should be verifying them all the time. We know that's, you know, that's why mirroring works and is important, is because it does happen that one half of a write will fail sometimes or something. But if the earlier you catch that, the earlier you can actually do something about it. You'll have the redundancy available to do something about it.
Yeah.
yeah, in this situation, I don't know if having 3 faulted drives made it worse or not, you know, because it was running for a while without any redundancy. So, and then then some of the drives weren't writing, then it's like kind of catastrophic cascade.
Yes,
Writing in air quotes.
Yeah, this is an interesting customer who's so, you know, willing to recover this data so hard, and yet they're willing to run with 3 failed drives.
Well, that goes back to my original request. It's like, yeah, do we want to run with no redundancy, or have a mode where we could like
right, but they should have
stopped writing or something?
Did they not notice the fact that they had lost these drives and just kept chugging along for some long period of time? Or did this all the stuff happen at once in some fashion?
I think it all kind of happened at once, but
I see.
All right. Well, some things to think about, and it's always fascinating when you get in these situations. To, you know, it's a good way to learn how ZFS works, right? It's like, oh, I never really took the time to look at this section, and now when I'm have to look at it sort of in a crisis mode. It's actually very interesting.
Speaking about read-only, I wonder, okay, you froze the pool, you cannot write, but won't you lose the data because of just pin production down effectively? Like, will your data accumulate somewhere to not be written, to be written later? Will it be better in any way possible?
You mean, oh, like an
Otherwise,
ingest type pool, like, and now you can't ingest anymore, or?
no, yeah, but if you have an incoming data stream and you cannot write it anymore, it will be lost. Or it's like you cannot do your production work. Otherwise, just check once a second if the pool is alive, continue write. If it's not alive, shut down your web server and call it we're down.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what the application is expecting. You know,
Yeah.
if they're not getting Axe, you know, they can write somewhere else maybe, but maybe not. Okay, I don't see anybody adding any new topics. Can go for free form. Anybody have a topic they'd like to consider?
I'll just next time I'll just mention 230 RC1 was cut during the week, which I'm sure you all noticed, but that's been pretty well received in you know in you know the weird corners of the internet for people who chase the latest file systems at every moment. JSON output will be very exciting. People are really interested in that. There's still a lot of misinformation out there. I've been correcting a lot of people on how dedupe works and how dedupe used to work and how and everything in that, which is and still trying to say to people, yeah, you still probably don't want this. This isn't quite what you think, and you've got block cloning now, so you can have that. So I don't have any other point to make, just other than it's been pretty cool and good job,
Yeah, I mean,
everyone.
there's some dedupe 2.0 and RAID expansion was out
Yeah.
in 2.3.
Corrected
trying to
people on that
think.
too. It was fun.
What? RAID what?
Expansion.
About time.
That's very cool. Well done. I'm excited.
Yeah, how many years, Matt, was that in the making? I can't even remember when you started on that, but
Yeah, I think it was at least 5 years.
yeah, because you gave a talk right at the Google, GitHub at one of the CFS summits.
Yeah, pre-pandemic.
And then now it's coming out just before another summit. So I don't know if is that the longest feature? I don't know. Or was encryption?
Encryption was pretty long, and also DRAID was pretty long.
Direct IO.
Direct
Direct
IO.
IO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. We got two big features into this release. Not sure what's next for 2.4.
I was actually thinking about that. I was like, what's the big thing that's been sitting there for a while, and I couldn't think of anything super obvious. I'm sure you've all got plans. I do, but
Well, RAID expansion was one that people just sort of use as a way to diss CFS. It's like, oh, it doesn't do this. It's like, but I can't think of another big missing feature. But performance on NVMe is going to be a big push coming forward. So not seeing anything over there. So other topics? I could bring up, I did the pull request for asynchronous arc teardown on ZPull export. And George, you had made a comment, and I think Alexander had made some comments. I ended up rolling back my latest change. I'm just trying to figure out a path forward. It's been suggested that we sort of integrate with the eviction thread, which is, kind of a bigger task. versus just putting this in there and then, in the future, going ahead and taking on like a super evict or evict that's, that could be threaded and take on the task of these teardowns.
I'll probably take another look. Now you mentioned, I remember I saw there that you removed some patches and addressed some things, but yeah, I've been busy with 2.3 release. I had not much time to look on anything other than burning. Right, I hope we are close now, 2.3.
Yeah, George had asked if we had prioritized, so where we have multiple task queues that are tearing down our components, and we also have the main eviction thread running. It's like, did we prioritize the main thread? And what I did in that attempt that I rolled back out was to have a list. Right now the main thread has picks a spa, and if that spa exists, then it only targets that one, which is what sort of the teardown tasks are using. And I made it an array, but it just got kind of ugly and messy, and it didn't seem like it was really solving the real request would be to have just one entity doing all the evictions with targeted or prioritized tools. Any other topics? Good. End early. Alexander, nothing on your end?
So after 2.3 is out, we are dreaming about several projects in the chain. At least I have that on my plate. Some I'm gonna look on better VDF balance, better than two different mechanisms we have right now. The next I may take a look on explicit rebalance mechanism instead of doing that on ZFS level. I'm not sure exactly about API, but something like, please rewrite this file again. Just read, modify, write without doing anything. Just on the kernel with proper locking that would allow us to move data from place to place, or potentially would fix them after it's the expansion. And after that step, we are dreaming about different tiers of storage, and that maybe, again, speaking about special VDEVs, if we could formalize that, would be nice also to introduce more potential kinds of special or opposite non-special, and then we would be able to tell, okay, this file is definitely not special, it should be moved to slower tier or something like that. But so far it's on a level of thoughts, so I'm gonna start from a question of rewriting file and VDF balance, and then we'll see where it ends. So far I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I wonder I don't know, I don't know if we're doing breakout groups at the conference, but maybe one on special devices, because it seems like it's kind of a loose end, like that's been floating around. Might be nice to have a sort of a path forward planning on that.
Definitely would be good.
Going once?
One more topic I'd like to mention, that with Direct.io patches mostly landed. One more is still in review, but hopefully will land. But one thing I would like to integrate is with the part I implemented earlier with uncached IO, primarily uncached writes or uncached read. So if Direct.io cannot do its dirty job of being actually direct, fall back not to full cached version, but to uncached one. So that we still go through Arc, but with less memory copies and quickly evicting from Arc. It's still twice faster. And I think it would fit there nicely. I was speaking about it from the beginning of Direct, not beginning, but quite a while before the Direct.io got landed, but still not implemented, but would be good. It shouldn't be a big project, so if somebody wished to play, it would be good, but at least Brian Atkinson told he will be busy with other things. So I may pick that up, or somebody else could. I think it would be nice integration.
Yeah, I just thought of something. The Q, looks like QEMU was deployed on OpenZFS for the build bots. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but I just noticed it because I happened to break everything at one point. But
something else, we can now have a bunch of FreeBSD tests which actually are usually working, and actually caught few new bugs that we never saw before, maybe just because of different timings. And also, thanks Rob, with some help from Brian, this test now is able to report output of GDB and ZDB and everything without downloading packages. One thing just annoys me, in case somebody has good ideas how to fix it. If the test catches some issue, it exit immediately. But just since it exits without freeing memory, it catches immediately crash because of memory leak. But it's not a really memory leak. We need somehow to handle differently case when the test exit on valid error, which is not a crash. We should not look for leaks. Since it just complicates things. I haven't looked how it works, but I hope it's possible to differentiate those. It should help to simplify diagnostics.
you mean when the process gets killed and it runs ZDB, or?
When the test catches some error, just logical one, and explicitly calls fail, I think, function. But function fail actually has its own allocation in progress, if not the calling code. Calling code also likely has own allocation. And attempt to exit process at that point triggers in process crash because of memory leaks.
Oh, okay.
So in addition to actually originally reported actual failure that was detected by test, it also gives false positive of memory leaks, which are not really leaks. So it would be nice to fix that. After that, the test would be much dramatically better than was before. And just one last thing that annoys me in new version.
All right. We can end early unless someone else has a topic. Okay, going once. All right, we'll see everyone, hopefully, or see most of you at the summit. And then there's the next meeting is it going to be in November, or are we going to postpone it because we're having a summit?
I think we should probably have it because it's a week after it, and I think it's going to be at the earlier time, 10 a.m. Pacific. November 5th.
Okay.
And then you can all present your reports to me, so I will know what happened. Nah, have fun. That's gonna be awesome.
All right. See you guys.
Take care.
Yeah.